Segmental cat-cow, which is a great way to restore spinal movement. Depending on our activity history and injury history, sometimes certain joints in our spine don't move as well as others and get a little bit sticky and stiff. And then other joints in our spine compensate for those and maybe move too much. So we want to restore equal movement through each joint so that when we load the spine, whether it's through day-to-day activity, our weight training, or our running, that load is distributed equally through all of the joints, which will help with injury prevention and just overall spinal health and longevity. So we're going to start in a quadruped position, so on all fours, with our shoulders stacked over our wrists and our hips stacked over our knees. So tabletop position. You can either tuck your toes under for a little extra plantar fascia stretch, or if that's too uncomfortable for you, you can have your feet flat on the ground. So from here, we're going to work in kind of a domino-like fashion, starting at the pelvis and moving all the way up to our head, and then we're going to reverse that. So we're going to start with the pelvis, imagining that bowl of water on its side, and we're going to tilt that pelvis forward. So bringing that bowl of water, spilling that water forward as our sit bones point up towards the ceiling. Then we're going to work towards our belly button. So belly button sinks down towards the floor. And then one at a time, we want to try and move into extension. So that's arching backwards. So belly comes down towards the ground, that cow belly. Once we get to our kind of bra line or heart rate strap monitor line, we want to think about also tilting forward. So think about that Superman chest and pushing the chest through the shoulders. Again, keeping the head and neck nice and long. And then only once we have achieved end range in the rest of our spine, then we can come up with our head and neck. So a common thing to do here is to use our head and neck to bring the chest through. I want you to keep your head and neck nice and long, get that movement through the chest, and then head and neck come last. Then we're going to reverse this. So we have wrinkles in our shirt. Now we're going to unwrinkle the shirt. So we're going to bring our chin towards our throat and then towards our chest. And I want you to think about curling yourself into a ball, unwrinkling your shirt one wrinkle at a time. We're moving into our angry cat. So curl, 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 keep your head and neck tucked. And then once you get to that low back and pelvis, I want you to tuck that pelvis under, imagining a tail, and you're trying to tuck that tail under. Good. Now we're going to reverse again. So now we have no wrinkles, we're going to wrinkle the shirt again. So we're starting at the pelvis, tilting forward, belly button to the floor, sinking down one at a time, nice, slow, and controlled. And then sinking that chest down and through. My head stays in neutral until I get every little nook and cranny, and then head and neck come last. And reverse, chin to throat. Curl yourself into a ball, doming that upper back, unwrinkling that shirt, and then thinking about that belt buckle to the rib cage to tuck that tail. Good. All right, now we're gonna go in reverse order. So you're gonna start on all fours again, find that neutral position. Now we're gonna start into flexion in the lumbar spine. So you're gonna tuck that pelvis under first, so belt buckles to the rib cage. And now we're doming that upper back, pressing the floor away, chin to throat, chin to chest. In that angry cat position, and then reverse. I'm keeping my pelvis tucked under as I lift my head and I sink my chest. This is the tricky part. I want to move through my lumbar spine, but I'm keeping my tail tucked as I sink that chest through and down. And then my low back and reverse. So tuck that tail under. Again, I'm going to want to dome through my upper back. I'm keeping it extended as I tuck that tail under, curling that low back, and only once I get to that heart rate strap monitor position, then I can start doming that upper back and tucking that chin towards the chest. And reverse, really squeeze those glutes to keep that pelvis tucked. Looking forward, sinking that chest through and down, proud chest, and then wrinkling that shirt one segment at a time. Good. So as we go through these, it's gonna feel a little bit shaky, and that's just because we're working at end range and we're working with a lot of focus and intent. And as you gain more mobility and control, that will smooth out and you'll get a little bit more range of motion. And then that range of motion will get a little bit shaky. So the slower and more controlled you go, the more intent and focus will be through each segment. So working on that wave-like fashion, nice and slow and controlled, about 3 to 5 reps. You can do these multiple times a day. First thing in the morning is a great way to wake up that spine, maybe a movement break throughout the day, or as a warm-up before your run, so that you can get that segmental control. You can distribute that load, that compressive load as you run more equally through that spine, or perhaps even as a cool down to restore that movement throughout the spine after that